1, 2, 3. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to a very, very late episode of Manga Maniacs, the show where I and my co-host Jeffrey talk about different manga. And the manga...
That wrong. See, this is actually episode 2 of Jeffrey and Tony Talk About Girls with Fluffy Tails. I don't know where you got your wires crossed.
Well, this is my show, after all. And this is another episode of Manga Maniacs, and the manga we'll be discussing here is Spice and Wolf. Or, as Jeffrey would put it, Girls with Fluffy Tails Part 2.
Well,
Fluffy.
It's been came out before. So Miyaki Kitsune.
True. Which, that's getting in it. Senko-san has an anime adaptation now.
Yeah, it's so weird. So does Hitori Bachi. Like, all the stuff I keep suggesting and reading keeps getting anime adaptations. I'm starting to wonder if I have a magical power where any anime I like gets turned into an anime, where any manga I like gets turned into an anime.
I guess so. But let's actually get to our topic at hand. So let's give our initial thoughts on Spice and Wolf. And let's start with you, Jeffrey.
Well, my sort of rating system is based on how worth your time it is. This will get like a point docked for being long, but that point comes right back because it's a very engaging read. I'd give it a 4 out of 5 personally. It would be a 5 out of 5 if not for the fact that it focuses so heavily on economics, which I don't think is a universal appeal. It's super good though.
Indeed, it is very good. And honestly, I love the character dynamics between Holo and Lawrence, mostly. And the art in this manga is exceptionally beautiful.
It is. See, one thing I've noticed in art is that there's only a limited amount of improvement you can get by taking the time to add in polish and details. But adding in that polish and detail is very important and can completely change the quality of your series. This would be like a 6 out of 10 in the art department, if not for it being very clear that the author put tons of time and effort into drawing background, shading, characters, everything.
Yeah, and Holo in particular looks absolutely stunning in most panels.
Yeah. One thing I noticed was a bit weird was that everyone seemed to have the same eyes. That got me a little bit.
I mean, sometimes that just happens. Because good art comes a long way, and if some things are repeating eye syndrome kind of happens, you just kind of look past it. Because the art overall is exceptional.
Yeah.
But my personal score, Spice Wolf, well, it's the same score as you, Jeffrey. It's a 4.5 out of 5 for me.
Oh. So what takes away that half that point? What could it have done, do you think, a little bit better?
Well, it's nothing that it did necessarily. It's just, it is a very engaging read, and personally to me, economics doesn't really interest me, but I do find a lot of the scenes within the manga itself to be rather engaging. It's just the economics part is just not that interesting in the grand scheme of things.
I got you. That makes sense to me. So those are our thoughts on it overall. Now we should dive into the spoiler book club style commentary on the whole jam. So we only read the first 50 chapters, but that was a lie, of course. It was so engaging to me that I actually read beyond that, but I think we'll only be discussing the first 50 chapters.
Yeah, and I actually read the first 50 chapters and then from chapters 91 or 92 till the end. Because I was really fascinated and I was really interested in what happened at the end of the story itself.
Yeah, I just couldn't stop right in the middle of the thing. This story is very good. It definitely hooked me, and so starting from the very beginning, we should probably talk about our characters here.
Oh, definitely.
What they do well, what they do badly.
And
oh wait, no. First we should talk about the setting because that's super cool.
oh yes, so let's actually go into the setting of Spice and Wolf. So
I would not want to do that. It's a super cool setting because it's like historical medieval setting with some fantasy, like one fantasy element in the form of holo. But that's such a rare thing for it to be such a like straight up just from the medieval times.
oh yeah,
Stylistic.
and geographically it looks very similar to like medieval France or England. I lean more towards France.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it could be either one though, because there was sort of an Irish feel to elements of the setting, and the fact that they dealt with the narwhal tells me that there's a lot of emphasis on the coast.
Yeah, true.
And I feel like Britain has historically had more jams going on with the coast than France had.
Oh,
I mean,
very
they both
true.
have coasts, obviously.
Very true. I can agree with you there. So let's get into our main characters, Lawrence and Holo.
Yeah. So Lawrence is a regular sort of dude, but at least he has enough going on for him to be interesting. So he's an economist, and he is essentially the author's vessel into this story to tell us about how much the author likes economics, which is always something cool because like seeing the author's passion for any subject instantly makes me more engaged with the story. Like Araki and JoJo is clearly invested in like the cool applications of his stance powers. So every single time he brings up something that they're doing, I get the impression that he's really enjoying having a chance to write about all this stuff.
Or
And that is very clear here.
Or Horikoshi's love for Western superhero comics.
Yeah, definitely.
And Lawrence as a character, I find him to be a very like a good protagonist in a story like this. Where
Yeah, not everybody's supposed to steal the show. Like some people have to be there for other characters to bounce off of, you know?
Mm-hmm. And the way I see Lawrence is he is this very interesting character, is that he is good at what he does, but he also doesn't want to take, he's the sort of guy that doesn't want to take a business venture that he doesn't see like the value in it. Like towards the end of the manga where he and Holo get married, they're both partners in a business, and some of their conversations are like basically debating on how either people that are coming to their wedding or how their business should be run. It's very interesting to see that sort of relationship between these two characters. And the love that he has for Holo is very genuine feeling.
Yeah, him and Holo just have a really solid chemistry together. One thing I really like about this guy, though, is that it's refreshing to read a story about a character who can't just straight up win a fight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he could seriously beat any of the characters that want to fight him in a fight. Like, he goes up against a guy who's just, like, exercised more than 2 days of their life, and he's gonna lose, probably. Which is just very refreshing for a main character. Not everybody needs to be strong, you know, not everybody needs to be throwing tables through walls.
But if we want to have more characterization, look no further than Holo. Because Holo herself is just a bundle of personality.
Yeah, it felt like the story kind of started focusing on the both of them, but then the author realized, wow, I guess Holo is the one that, like, really feels like she's the one driving the plot, she's the one that solves most of the encounters, she's the one that essentially has the majority of personality. Which is pretty funny because it's called Spice and Wolf, and yet one is a spicy wolf and the other is super bland.
Mm-hmm. And with Holo, always, like, all of the panels that she's in, she always has either a drink in her hand, some food in her mouth, or this big smile on her face. Or there are scenes where she's trying to intimidate people and going into her wolf form. And just the look on her face when she actually is a bride is just spectacular.
Yeah, one thing I really liked about this manga is that they're not afraid of just having entire chapters of the characters hanging out and having a good time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because some of the chapters we have, like, with the sheep girl. And when Holo and Lawrence are introduced to her as a character, we see Holo get a little jealous of Sheep Girl.
But then she gets a little jelly and it's all fine.
Yeah, it is actually just quite funny. And then we have this little, in one of the chapters, we have this little side story of Sheep Girl going through the town with her dog. And both her and the dog are sleeping in this barn where she is found by just some random dude.
Yeah, you can call her by her name, Tony. Her name is Shepherdess.
Shepherdess? Well, I will call her Sheep Girl because that's how I'll always remember her.
Yeah. This is just a nice story, and it really definitely feels like it's not wasting your time with anything. And I think that's because it has almost kind of like a weird sort of pace. It feels like this is made from an anime. And what I mean by that is, like, typically a manga would be structured in like a line that your eyes are meant to follow, and the actions the characters will take will usually follow that line for a naturally easier reading time. But in this manga, I noticed a lot of the time that the panels felt like they were broken up between completely different actions. So it will show Holo from an 80-degree angle walking forwards, and then it will show Holo from the opposite angle holding an apple. And your brain will put that together once you think about it for a second. But the fact that it feels almost like a snapshot feels like it was just like the author pictured a moving scene in his mind and then just chose snapshots to put those in direct block formats.
Right, that's kind of how I saw it too, honestly. And I also like that there are, like, people have pointed out that those who have watched the Spice and Wolf anime and read the manga, that there are huge differences from both versions. Like, in terms of what the characters have done and all that stuff, you know? And also,
it was definitely weird. I'd love for you to tell me about them. The only difference was I noted is that, like, everyone has, like, black or white hair in the manga. That was really weird to me.
Yeah, and one of the
things... That was a joke, Tony.
Well, you're a pain.
The manga's black and white.
You're a pain. And
okay,
here...
So what are those differences?
Well, one of them is that one of the characters is male in the manga, and one of them is female. That kind of caused a ruckus in the first few chapters.
It can't be the Shepherdess.
No, it's when people kind of found out that Holo is a wolf, and they had to get out of the city that they were in due to the whole the rival merchant company trying to, like, axe them out.
Yeah.
One of the characters that kind of sold them out was male in the manga and female in the anime.
Oh, that doesn't sound like all that big of a difference.
No, not really, but the female character had a thing for Lawrence.
Oh, that seems like it could take something a different direction.
Yeah.
That also seems kind of unnecessary. I mean, this is based on a light novel first, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I wonder which is more accurate to the light novel between the two of these.
That's something I'm not too sure of 100%. But one thing that I will always appreciate in any work that's a long-running work is that there are callbacks to characters from previous parts in the story. Like, we have... like, the various...
This definitely feels like it was sort of evolution of the setting that some really good long-running series do, where it's all moving parts. One Piece does this the best, I think, but this is pretty good.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to refer to is that when Holo is inviting people to her and Loris' wedding, we get introduced to a lot of characters they came across in the past.
Hey, Tony? You remember how I said I read past chapter 50? I stopped at, like, chapter 65. I didn't know anything about a wedding.
Yeah, well, it's kind of implied that Lawrence and Holo get married and they run an end together.
They start implying that. Okay, so I guess like we really are going full on of these spoilers and jumping right into the end. Yeah, I agree with you on the whole things coming back parts, but that's mostly just because people come back. Like the Shepherdess appears well after her arc.
Yeah, and I think that's a wonderful aspect to this story in particular. That there are no superfluous characters that are just there for one moment. They always come back in some capacity at a much later part of the story.
I have to disagree with you there. Everything has superfluous characters just because of the fact that they aren't all trapped in a box, forced to engage with each other over and over. Like,
well, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that the character isn't one and done. It's that that there are characters that will always come back when the situation just kind of works out. Like, for example, the Shepherdess coming back at the end of the story to kind of congratulate Holo and Lawrence's wedding. Just, there are a lot of these great moments where these characters kind of talk to other characters that they may have not interacted with before about their times with Lawrence and Holo.
Yeah.
It's not just...
I will agree with you on the matter of, like, them not wasting your time with side characters. Like, the characters that you spend time with and get invested in, they do come back, but it's not all characters that come back. Like, the person that Lawrence buys silver from in, like, chapter 20 or so.
Yeah. Just characters to kind of move the story along, I get you. But one of the things that I can always appreciate is that all characters in this story that kind of had a bit of development to them, that always kind of come back to some capacity, they always have, like, interesting tales to spin when they do inevitably come back.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about in the Vigilantes review, where, like, in Hunter x Hunter or One Piece where they do it well, the characters will come back after an arc and you get the impression that they've had an arc of their own. Whereas something like Vigilantes, they just come back and it's them the same. This definitely does that way better, and there's so much more work involved in putting in that kind of thought into what all the other characters are doing. It really gets a lot of respect from it, and I can clearly see that the author planned all of that sort of stuff out.
And plus, there are great character moments with the female friar. And
yeah, Elsa, that was her name.
Yeah, and just a lot of the religion aspect, even though religion in the real world, for me, it's a very, it's a subject that I never really want to get into all that much, because organized religion, I find rather bothersome, personally, but I really find just how religion works in this world very fascinating, and how, back in those days, religion was pretty much everything. Where...
Yeah, and I think that's why it's here. It didn't really feel out of place for me, just because I realized that, like, yeah, if you go back to this time period that it's actually basing itself on, yeah, everybody. It's their entire lives.
Oh yeah, and I just like how they wanted that Lawrence, Holo, and the, like, Eva, the one farmer dude.
Awesome. Oh.
Or Evan, I think is his name. Where...
I'm terrible with names, especially guy names.
Well, he's basically... He looks like if I was reading into it correctly, he has a thing for the young friaress. Elsa.
Yeah.
And
they're pretty much definitely going to end up together.
And
I think that's mostly on the merit of they're two people of the same age who live near each other.
And the way it's this question, and I like that it's a question of faith with her story in particular. How it's when Holo is in her wolf form, all Elsa is doing is just trying to kind of question Holo about kind of the faith in the gods of old, or bringing forth the harvest.
Yeah.
And I just really find the aspects, I really find like a little bit of the economics aspect of the story very fascinating. On top of that, I just find like how everyone kind of views religion in this world, and how they are talking to a literal deity of the harvest when it comes to old pagan worship, and when it comes to like a pseudo-Christian faith coming in, trying to stamp out old traditions in a sense. I just find that stuff rather fascinating because it's very true to the time period.
Yeah, this story definitely shows that it's not about the premise of your story, it's about the execution. Like, this is medieval setting, like, people don't even have great toilets, and it focuses heavily on economics, but it's still fantastic, which you can compare it to so many other things with better sounding premises, and they just don't match up to the same degree.
Definitely. And in a way, I think that's pretty much all of our thoughts on Spice and Wolf. Let's kind of give our final verdict for Spice and Wolf.
Yeah, I definitely give it a black pepper out of spices. Definitely a classic.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is like the best spice when it comes to making a solid meal. But in all reality, we will give Spice and Wolf here, at least for me, it will always stay a 4.5 out of 5. It is definitely one of the best series out there.
I mean, it doesn't have quite like the shortness of like, please don't bully me, Nagatoro, but at the same time, it earns that length, in my opinion.
Oh yes, I definitely agree with you there. It holds this brilliant reputation of like a grand epic, spun in a little over 100 chapters, and it's an epic.
You know what? You know what I liked? My favorite part of it all, overall.
Mm-hmm.
At no point did I just think to myself, Holo is just a tsundere. If I didn't know the meaning of that word, I would have never even thought to apply it to her, because she's a character first, you know.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't walk into a room and be like, it's not like I like you or anything, Burger King.
Well, so my score is staying at 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, and mine is staying at a 4 out of 5. The length is justified here, but the subject material might turn to.
Well, and that's kind of a given. If you're really invested in a story, it's not like the length or some of the premise is going to deter you. So, join us next time, folks, where we will be talking about My Hero Academia.
Ooh, wow, topical, talking about length.
Well, at least we're not talking about One Piece.
What? We've been talking about One Piece this entire time. I thought we were speaking in code.
No, we were talking Spice and Wolf review, you silly goose.
No, I mean, like, every episode has actually been about One Piece. That's why.
If I was reading One Piece, I would be watching the anime of One Piece right about now. And the only thing I know about One Piece and I really enjoyed from One Piece is when Boa Hancock came in. Fucking hilarious.
You're wrong. The anime is awful.
You're awful.
No.
You're
the manga is the best.
Well,
Anyways,
I enjoy the Part 5 anime from JoJo. So, there.
Okay, yeah, JoJo is a pretty good anime. But the One Piece anime is just awful.
You're awful.
Well, if I am, then the One Piece anime is the awful-est.
That makes no sense.
It's just so bad, man. There's One Piece, which is a drastically clipped down version of all the filler that they pump into every episode. It's so bad.
Well, anyway,
No,
we're
not still live, are we?
well, yes, we are. We are still live. So, we also might potentially have a special guest, which I still need to talk to him about. My buddy Jay, aka Mr. J's Reviews, will be coming in for Manga Maniacs to basically talk the My Hero manga. We're going to be mostly focusing on the most recent arcs and see how far it has come from its more humble beginnings.
Yeah, so tune in if you want to hear about superheroes.
And if you're just as excited as Jay and I are about the next season of the My Hero Academia anime coming October, so tune in for the Weeb Warriors review when that pops up, because oh boy, Overhaul is coming. He's going to be fully animated. It's going to be amazing.
Definitely check that out. I drank some Weeb Warriors the other day. I haven't been able to stop gushing. Please send help.
Yep. So, tune in next time. We'll catch you then.